rain clouds are pregnant with potential for rain, yes? That potential for rain is not the rain, and yet without it, there can be no rain, right? So it would be like confusing the rain as something different from the cloud, which it is, but the potential of the cloud to produce the rain is not. Does that make sense? The rain and the potential for the rain are equal, because the rain is an expression of the potential. But if you're hooked into the thingifying of things, the identification of raindrops versus moisture in cloud form, you can't stop thinking of them as different things. But if you look at everything from the point of view of potential and expression, the difference is so subtle that in that frame of mind, the two are equivalent. Yes? To experience Tathagata is to experience Buddha, because Buddha is the experience of the potential, the Tathagata potential. Yes? Make sense? But Kashyapa is still wanting to identify the two as two, which are in fact not so. They're just perceptive differences. And the very fact that there's perception identifies it. Because there would be no perception without the expression of potential. Follow? It's in the Nidana. Like I said, Shakyamuni's been teaching the same thing since day one. He's been teaching it with different words depending on his audience. But the minutiae of the realization of Buddhism and Buddhahood is the same. It's just being viewed with samsaric lenses throughout history, yes? O good man, do not speak in this way. Why not? If one says that the Tathagata field is like Mount Sumeru, does this imply that he will break up as Sumeru must break up when the time comes for it to disintegrate? See, the moment you make the assumption of identification, you segregate. Because the moment you say this is this, what you're also saying is everything else is not this. You've isolated whatever it is you've identified. And this is the beginning of the delusion. And working backwards, as I've often said, the awakening, the appearance of enlightenment, Buddhahood sees all things as happening, being, moment to moment, all the time, whatever all the time means. But moment to moment, one after another. And on a macro scale, if, again, you've looked into the CCC, oh my goodness, I can't remember his name, it just escaped my head. Sir Roger Penrose. His cyclical cosmic, his cyclical conformal cosmology. What a brilliant idea. That the universe expands and expands and expands, and more black holes, which are everywhere in the universe, begin to not only are formed, but they are formed, and as if you know anything about black holes, they're kind of the universe's great vacuum cleaner as they suck in stars, gases, everything around them, and they keep expanding because they keep sucking in more and more matter. And you can envision a future, a distant future, where at some point every matter, everything in the universe has been sucked into black holes. And then black holes merge, which they're doing now, and they continue to do so, until the point where the universe is basically just all black holes with little else. And at that point, something occurs which will bend your mind. Because if you think about time and what time is a distance between points which are locations, not things, right? And as points get further and further apart, time scales. But if black holes are eating everything in the universe, then there are fewer and fewer points. Therefore, time scales down. And ultimately, if you follow anything to its ultimate, you get to the result is no thing. And this is where maths has a problem with infinities. Well, Roger fixes that in a way by saying, well, the infinite point is simply a turnaround. It's an inversion, like an inversion layer. All right? So whatever you want to call it, the singularity is really a state of conformal, no time, no space, black hole compression. Now, you could look at black holes as potential, quiescent energy, at some point expresses. And what it expresses is this: all the energies that were present in the previous universe in new form all over again. And that compression of time and space becomes like, you could envision it as a pressure cooker. It releases and expresses itself tremendously quickly. And you can call that the Great Inflation, the Big Bang. Scientists move those points in time all over the place for the beginning of a universe. But it's really a recycling, listen carefully, of the energies that are expressing themselves. Cycling, birth, death, birth of the universe, death of the universe, the cycle of birth and death on the macro scale. No different than the birth and death of each moment we experience. We're a little exploding universe with certain parameters, tendencies, and conditions. And so we have the Sylvain universe, the Paul universe, the John universe, the Laquanda universe, the marvelous, wonderful, whoever you are universe. We're all like little universes, right? And boy, when I think about my memory and memory losses these days, I understand black holes on a personal level. But you understand what I'm saying, yes? And here he is touching on this, eternal versus non-eternal. Non-eternal is something that's been identified. And so that's a temporary, impermanent thing. The truth is, everything is eternal, but not eternal in the sense that it continues to be. What continues, what is eternal, is the potential, the tathagata-ness. And the Dharma, as he points out, is the awakened experience, the observation of that process occurring. And our Buddha state is that which can perceive this moment-to-moment existence in all the cosmos. That's Dharma. But it often slides into samsaric meanings like the teaching, but it's not. The teaching is about the Dharma, achieving the Dharma, experiencing the Dharma, Buddhahood. In other words, experiencing the expression of tathagata-ness, which you could argue, unbeknownst to our samsaric labeling and identification, is ongoing. Just because you don't realize it doesn't mean it's not happening. Aha. All right, let's continue. So if one says that the Tathagata field is like Mount Sumeru, does this imply that he will break up as Sumeru must break up when the time comes for its disintegration? Now you see how he cleverly equated the identification of Sumeru with all identification. Because the person who says this will be destroyed just as soon as Mount Sumeru is destroyed or disintegrates. Right? O good man, do not view things thus. O good man, with all things, quote unquote, excepting nirvana, not one thing is eternal or outside of time. Right? An identified thing is an impermanent mental observation. That's what it amounts to. Merely to conform with the ways of secular truth, we say that the fruit is eternal or outside of time. Because we're conforming with secular, in other words, everyday truth, which is really an accepted delusion that we all share. And that's a truth that's only because it's a common identification amongst people. And the only reason it's common identification amongst people is because we have a language to make it so. Bodhisattva Kashyapa says to Shakyamuni Buddha, O world-honored one, it is good. It is good. It is as Shakyamuni Buddha says. Or in modern parlance, got it. Shakyamuni Buddha says to Kashyapa, it is thus. O good man, a person may be true to what the sutras say, or may have practiced all the samadhis, but until he has learned the MahaPariNirvana, he will say that all is non-eternal or within time. When a person has learned this sutra, he may have illusion, but he is, so to speak, without illusion. It, learning this sutra, well benefits man and the pure land. Why? What's it? Reminder, what is the pure land? Remember in the Vimalakirti Sutra, he made an emphatic point that the pure land, the experience of Buddhahood, which is what the Pure Land is with you all the time. You simply have to open your mind to it. Ninth consciousness. Because one clearly sees that one's own body has the Buddha nature within the mind, this is the eternal or outside of time manifestation of Tathagata field. Also, next, O good man, it is like the case of the mango tree. When its flower first appears, what there is at that time is the changing phase. When it bears fruit and when it bestows much benefit, we speak of the eternal or outside of time. O good man, a person may thus be true to all the sutras or may have practiced samadhis, but when he has not yet given ear to this great Mahayana, Lotus, and MahaPariNirvana sutras, all is based on the non-eternal or within time. When a person gives ear to this sutra, although still possessing illusion, it is as though he had no illusion. That is to say that it benefits both man and the Pure Land. How? Because that person clearly knows that he has the Buddha nature within. This is the eternal or outside of time. In other words, manifesting the Tathagata-ness in one's own human life, mind, is an experience of that expression. I have a tidbit here. I say, this is the shift of perception that occurs when the Buddha eye is opened. The paradigm of samsara is steadily replaced with the paradigm of the Tathagata field. And this is what the whole Lotus Sutra was about. When he says benefits man, what he's saying is the Lotus Bodhisattva that we become. What was I also going to point out? Oh, you may have, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but you may say with some curiosity that if everything is outside of time, isn't that true? Because everything in the universe, the cosmos, is a function of time, right? Because space, time. But the space-time is a construct of our perception. The cosmos doesn't experience it. The cosmos does not experience it. In the cosmos, everything is now. The speed of light. The cosmos goes through the very same thing that everything goes through, as well as you and I. There's energy. There's building blocks of energy that are vying back and forth with expressing or non-expressing, right? In and out, we might say, of being. Physicists talk about matter and antimatter. It's this form that we have this formula, right? We have quiescent energy. We have formation. Again, nidana. And then we have namarupa, that expression. And when you hear physicists talking about dark energy, dark matter, antimatter versus matter, they're all struggling and trying to grasp, in physical terms, this formation. So samsara, you could say, is the alliteration of expressions of potential. And then you have the potential, which is mysterious to a materialistic mind, yes? And then you have this interface, the formations. And in those formations is the form of expression for all of these potentials. It's fascinating. What does that look like? How does it decide? When we give it anthropomorphic qualities, because that's what samsaric mind knows. So when we say it's outside of time, we're not saying that it's when there's no universe. For instance, CCC, right? The universe collapses and re-expresses. Is that infinitesimal moment, or is that millennia between the collapse and the expression? We don't say that that non-entity is the only thing that's outside of time. No. We're saying right now, with this entire cosmos, there is a perceptive side that is space and time, which is a samsaric thing. It's identified as space and time to begin with. And as this is going on, there is this non-space and time, this quiescence forming namarupa process going on moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. So the two are somewhat, I won't say parallel, but coexisting of sorts. They have to be for there to be moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. All right, I'm going to let that go. Also, good man, when an ingot of gold melts, this is the phase of the non-eternal. Once molten, it becomes gold. When it greatly benefits a person, we say eternal. The case is like this. Thus, O good man, a person may be true to all the sutras, may have practiced all the samadhis, but he has not come to yet give an ear to this great Mahayana Lotus and MahaPariNirvana sutras. All is non-eternal or within time. When a person has given ear to these sutras, he may well have illusion, but it is as though he did not. It thus benefits all men and karmic potentials. Why? Because the person clearly comes to know that he has the Buddha nature within. This is the eternal Tathagata field, right? Let me make a correction here. Oop, my pencil broke. Oh, I'm going to use up all of these little markers. That's okay. I got to get to work on this. Also, next, O good man, sesame, for example, when not yet pressed, is non-eternal or within time. Once the pressing has been done and the oil has been extracted, the sesame gives great benefit. This is the eternal, O good man. So again, he's going to overstate this too many times. But basically the example is the same. When you have the sesame seeds, you do not see the oil. Only after you press them do you see the oil. And so he's talking about the process of enlightenment. But it's not as obvious now because we've had so many examples. We're starting to thingify again, and we're starting to think about sesame seeds and sesame oil instead of the analogy. This happens a lot with Buddhist writing, partly because it's so repetitive, trying to hone in and re-examine and restate the obvious. Even if a person may be true to all the sutras and may have practiced samadhis, but not yet having heard of this in the great MahaPariNirvana, All is non-eternal or within time for that person. And yet, until your mind, your Buddha mind, your ninth consciousness is enlivened, opened, awakened through your process and your practice of the Lotus Sutra method, which once again is brought more clarity to for those who didn't quite get it in this MahaPariNirvana Sutra, restating and reinvigorating the investigation of Lotus Bodhisattva practice. Until somebody does this, they're still stuck in the ritualistic repetition of the analogies and teachings rather than the Dharma itself. In a way, this is a sort of a lament, yes? And he wants Kashyapa. Remember, Kashyapa is a representative of a great many monks. This is why the conversation is happening with him. He's a leader. But he's not talking to Kashyapa in a vacuum here, right? Kashyapa is part of a great horde of monks who've shown up for this MahaPariNirvana event. So Kashyapa says, Shakyamuni Buddha is already segregated from the poisonous arrows of apprehension and suffering. Apprehension and suffering are the pure land. The Tathagata field is not the pure land. Apprehension and suffering are human. The Tathagata field is no human. Apprehension and suffering are the 3,000 realms of existence. Hence, there can exist no apprehension or suffering with the Tathagata field manifested as Buddha consciousness. How could one say that the Tathagata field is apprehension and suffering? Well, that's not what Shakyamuni Buddha said. What is wrong with Kashyapa here? Why can't he accept this? O good man, in no thought, the pure land, Avra, what obtains is thoughtlessness. If thoughtless, there can be no perception or experience of life. If there is no experience of life, how can there be the 5 skandhas, the 3,000 realms, or the 12 spheres? See, once again, Kashyapa is not, he wants to separate these things as definite articles. But they're not. They're coexisting. And the only reason they coexist is one is the delusional and one is the clarity. You see why it's obvious that the Buddha nature exists in everything. But it must be cultivated. It must be awakened. It must be, look, you could go through your whole life with your eyes closed. It's nice when you sleep, and it makes it so you can rest and sleep and feel relaxed and breathe normally. And I love my eyes closed. But if you woke up in the morning and went through your day with your eyes remaining closed, your experience of the world would be, well, quite different than it is with your eyes open, right? All the stuff would still be there. You might run into it more often with your eyes closed. But you won't appreciate what it is, how it is, when it is in your way until you open your eyes. The stuff doesn't suddenly appear because you open your eyes. It's been there all along. Right? Again, this is the rhetoric of early teachings. Shakyamuni is teaching still to the capacity of his interlocutor, or interlocutor, however you prefer to pronounce it. monks that are still adhering to earlier concepts through Kashyapa, right? This statement, when modified or updated, still holds for modern Buddhists who know of the 3,000 realms and 9 consciousnesses. That's my little statement here. We return to Shakyamuni. Hence, we cannot say that the life of no thought, that the Pure Land has any place to exist, because the Pure Land is conjured only in the mind. O good man, for example, the karmic potential of a tree lives in the tree. We cannot definitely say that it lives in the branch, the knot, the trunk, or the leaf. Though we cannot name the place, we cannot say that he does not exist, because we know that the tree is a product of a process that has been directed from the start. The life of no thought, the Pure Land, is also like that. O good man, the case of Buddha Dharma is likewise thus. It is very deep and unfathomable. Shakyamuni Buddha has no apprehension, suffering, or worry, yet he evinces great compassion towards beings, has apprehension and sorrow, and views them as he views Rahula. Again, this return to this deep compassion, and I spoke about it in the videos on love, that often gets translated in these Sutra books, writings, as pity. But it's not pity in the modern sense that, man, I feel sorry for you, yeah? It's pity in the sense of you don't have to experience this. How can I reach into your mind or to you and convince you, give you confidence? That's the conviction and convincing we're talking about. How can I imbue you with the confidence to look for yourself and see through your Buddha eye, your Buddha mind, your released perceptive observer? The Buddha only comes about and has this compassion due to the potential for Buddha to exist, right? Also, next, the life of no thought, the Pure Land, can only be known by the Buddha mind, the Buddha consciousness, not him, Shakyamuni. And this, of course, is the Buddha, the 9th consciousness in all living beings. It is beyond the reckoning of others. Also, the same applies to thoughtlessness, non-thoughtlessness of the Pure Land. O Kashyapa, the nature of Shakyamuni Buddha is pure and untainted, and is like a transformed body. How can there be any apprehension, suffering, or worry? And yet, he has apprehension and worry, but it is about you and I. It is about all those who have not yet awakened their Buddha sense, consciousness, I. If Shakyamuni Buddha has no apprehension or suffering, how can Shakyamuni Buddha bestow benefit upon beings and disseminate the Buddhist teaching? Why bother? If no, how can we say that he sees beings as he sees Rahula? If he does not see beings as he sees his only son, Rahula, any such inconceivable dharma is inconceivable. The nature of beings is inconceivable. And the life of no thought or the Pure Land is inconceivable. Whether the Tathagata field has any apprehension or not is for the world of the Buddha to know. It is not what Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas can fathom out. No matter how much learning or realization, if you're working with words to understand something, that is not the something. Learning about the Dharma is not the Dharma. The experience of Buddha-ness, of the Tathagata-ness, of the universe and each other and all things. that cannot be described in words. It can only be, as Nietzsche would point out over and over again, experienced between Buddhas. In other words, enlightened people. Where are we time-wise? Okay, gone on and on and on and on. Let's see, is this a good place to stop? Yeah. All right, I'm going to pause here. You know, I can sometimes feel frustrated that this seems to be taking such a long time. Look at this book. We're only about halfway through it looks like. And I can't wait to get through it so that I can make all these corrections and publish it full out. But at the same time, would it have the same value as having all of these discussions with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. Let me know. Should I just hunker down and go through a major revision on this book and volume 2 and make that satisfactory and publish it and just refer to it? Or are you getting enough out of these videos of my dissecting it before I go through that publishing phase? Is this worth it? Is it more worth it to end up with a product that is more refined, arguably, just simply by discussion out loud, that you can then refer to these videos as background to maybe delve into a particular chapter more deeply than simply reading it? Or is there really no augmentation doing this? Is it just a sort of a vanity? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Everything I do on this channel and in all the resources I've put together is to help build your confidence in your practice. And so if this isn't doing it, tell me what would. Or tell me that, well, this just didn't work for me, but I want you to keep doing it. Or, no, I think you're wasting your time. I think you should really hunker down, finish the book, and just make this document available to us as soon as possible. I don't know. Give me your reasons. That would even be better, right? Because something new might come out of that. One thing you won't have if I don't do these videos is, of course, the podcasts, because the podcasts are simply the audio tracks from these videos. But, you know, consider it. I really, I need your help. And on the subject of help, of course, you have all the links in the description of the video here on how you can help support this effort. And if you can't afford to, liking and subscribing is a really great way to help support this channel without costing you a cent. But if you can, like some others have, join Patreon or occasionally donate through PayPal me. It's a very bodhisattva act, and I deeply appreciate your support. So with all of that said, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, thank you for your practice. Thank you for joining us here and being part of the Sangha. Take care of your health. Please do that. And I will see you in the next one, all right? Bye for now.